A little bit delayed, yeah. Okay, well, we'll get you going in a second. There was just a little bit of lag when you join. That happens sometimes. All right, so I'm saying that part of what the New Nobility Corporation does is promote universal basic income. And in the sense that what they are saying is that the conception behind universal basic income is to facilitate the ability for each individual to follow their passion, whatever that is, to actually find their spot on the effort reward balance. Now, some people that are critical of this kind of thing might say, yeah, but that's going to just cause some people to be lazy. Well, you think of a lazy person, what do? They watch TV, they play games, they eat food, you know. In other words, if they are just eating food, they're being a consumer. Whatever they're buying, they're being a consumer, and society needs consumers. So if you think of consumer as a job, it's a very important job. Without consumers, there would be no purpose, no point for anybody to be a manufacturer, to be a producer, to be an engineer, to be a creator, right? Those supposedly people who do nothing, they listen to music, they watch TV, they watch sports, all this kind of stuff. So they're a fan as well, right? They are partaking in something, even if they're just reading books, they are still being a fan and a consumer. Now, not only does a society need consumers, but it also needs fans. Fan is not just something that you do for your fun. No, think of it as a job. Hey, somebody's got to be the fan. If they weren't the fans, we wouldn't have all of this magic of art and sports and creation and all of the stuff. So when you look at universal basic income in that context, it now becomes an entirely different mechanism. It is the ability to pursue our passions. Plus, when you have your basic needs taken care of, at some point, I don't care how much you're looking to do nothing, something's going to grab you. And typically, people don't follow their passions because they don't have the means and the ability to. But when you do have that, oh my goodness, it's huge. And especially if you have an ongoing culture where from children already, you're encouraged to follow your passion. Just imagine, just think for each and every one, whoever's hearing this to say, what would have happened if you'd been in a space where you could have just followed your passion? How awesome would that not be? Think of anybody that's really stuff that you enjoy, that you find valuable in your life. And that's typically come about because of somebody following their passion, right? Art, music, film, movies, sports, anything, somebody following their passion, but they're in a space where they can do so. And that's important. Actually, in a fairly recent study, a couple of them actually, I believe, in the really huge corporations, like Google or Apple or Facebook, or whatever, I forget which one, they did a study very specifically to see what motivates people to be the most productive. And they tried all sorts of things, bonuses, giving them extra money and all this. But the thing they found that made the most difference to productivity was they said to the people, hey, you do whatever you want to do, and that's it. As long as you just produce something, we don't care. You just follow your passion, do whatever you want to do. And this made the most productive employees ever. So it's actually a real thing. It's not just something that's an idea. It's a very real thing. If we want productivity and we want to get maximum benefit, follow your passion. Because of course it's obvious. It's like, duh, you're motivated. You want to do it. You love doing it. For me, when I follow my passions, I like work 24/7 pretty much. I don't get enough sleep when I really get involved in something. And most people that are passionate about what they do, it's the same thing. So this is the entirety of the New Nobility. Their passion is learning, growth, awareness, understanding, depth, connecting, spirituality, all of the stuff. Hello, Ryan. Brilliant. This is the passion of the New Nobility. And I'm relating this in a full circle, like in my background here, to the mandate of the New Nobility as a whole. Their mandate is the promotion of being. Because when you are yourself, when you just being you're automatically connected to your passion, to your intent, to what matters to you, what's significant to you, what's important to you. In other words, it's another way of saying they live the way of impeccability, because that's what it is. Impeccability is the best use of energy, and being thorough and diligent and scrupulous, or living according to your conscience. When you follow your passion, that's when you're living in connection with the totality of yourself. So this is very exciting, and that's why the New Nobility, their mandate is to promote being. And also, it puts them in an ethical position where they say, we can't tell you what to be, only you can do that. We can perhaps, share choices with you and tools that will, that facilitate you deciding and connecting to what you are. But that's your choice. We can just give you tools maybe, or assisting tools, or provide options, but that's the most we can do. We can't tell you what to do. That you have to do for yourself. Anyway, so we get to our story, and we can start in a second. I was just doing a recap, Ryan, while I waited. I'm hoping Donna will join us also. She said she will around about this time. So I'm kind of keen for her. So Rachel, would you like to read a little bit or not?
I have a massive sore throat. I can try.
Okay. Well, you know what? You can maybe just read like Bina did last week. Just read the things in italics, the parts in italics. Where Biella's the internal thoughts of Biella. Let me do a screen share to show you what I mean. And there's
I've got strepsils.
Say again.
I've got strepsils. They're supposed to help with sore throats.
Strepsils. Yeah, I remember them.
So I sound like I've got something in my mouth at the moment, but that's just a strepsil.
All right, no worries. We will get going in a little bit now. I'm just still hoping that Donna joins. And then let's see. Okay. So you see here, like this where it's in italics, you can just read those. I don't think there are that many of them. They're just short, you see. So it's not a lot to read. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So whatever's in italics, because it's like Biella's internal thinking. So that's pretty good. So all right. Say again.
Can you hear any background noise?
Now it's okay. When you first joined, there was kind of and a little bit here and there, but it's okay. We're not too worried.
It was my TV. I was watching anime.
I got you. All right. So no worries. So no worries. Yeah, no problem. We just do our thing, and I'm not too worried about this. We're not. This is not a studio production that we're doing here. We're just doing this for our own fun. So a little bit of background noise, too bad. It is what it is. Okay.
I like to sometimes I'll watch a video on YouTube or play a video game or just watch something like an anime. Well, it's background noise basically.
Gotcha.
While we do this thing.
Gotcha. So I'm just looking. I'm hoping Donna joins, and maybe she'll want to read a little bit also. Ryan, I do believe you enjoy the reading. Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, good. I don't want to assume that you enjoy the reading, but if you do, I enjoy your reading. So if you want, you can read either the narrator again, which you've been done a couple times, or you can read Biella this time if you want. If Donna doesn't join us, I do try and match the genders a little bit. Not that it really matters, but see, there's Comelius as well, you see. So Comelius has kind of a lot here. So I was thinking for you to maybe read Comelius today, because this chapter is all about Comelius, and your voice is kind of suited to him somewhat. So so you're a little distant in your sound, Ryan.
Oh, I am.
Yeah. Well, now that's better. You were there for a second. Okay.
Hold on a second. Let me rearrange my mic.
There you go. Now we get that fullness of Ryan's voice. You just sounded like you were in a pipe or something there.
Well, I can bring my mic closer. Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Then it gets that intimacy, and you have a nice voice, so we like to hear that fullness too of it. So
yeah. Okay.
We get all that maleness, right, Rachel? We want all that testosterone in the voice, but no. Comelius
just made me laugh. That made me laugh. Just very sensual.
Exactly.
Talking really sensually.
Exactly. I'll leave that for you to say, Rachel. I can't exactly say that, but all right. So I was hoping that if Donna comes, let me just check where Donna is. If Donna comes, she can read Biella, and I'll read the narrator, and then we've got all the parts taken care of. I think Ursula says a few things here and there. Then I could read the narrator and Ursula also. But anyway, let's see. Yeah, Bina can't join us today, unfortunately. It's all good. I was actually enjoying doing the recap on the story so far, and also going into a bit of the backstory of the New Nobility, like how it's connected to the New Nobility Corporation and so on. I don't know, I thought that was kind of fun. I enjoyed that. So, all right, we'll just give Don a couple more minutes here, and while we wait, let me see. Bina had to go out, but maybe she's back. You never know. So Cher said she's also going to join. That'd be nice if Cher could come and read also, because that'd be cool. So Cher, let me see. She's got a customer, so I can't rush her. Okay, so she'll come as soon as the customer's done. All right, I don't want to pressure anybody. You know, again, always whatever we do, no expectations, no obligations. That's just the way we do, right?
There are loads of recommendations.
Say again.
But there are loads of recommendations.
Yes. Well, you know, again, they're always free. They're always free, you know. Always free. Everything always free, you know. That's the key. You know, we need to have this, not need, but, you know, for me personally, I like that freedom. That freedom is very important. If we don't insist on that freedom, it leads to all sorts of things. It's always about our choices, what we do and all that. So very, very, very powerful to have that freedom of choice. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So in terms of the reading, I'll in terms of the italics, you know, I'll read this quote as well, Rachel. You know, you just do the reading of Biella's. Everything else that's in italics, it's not a quote. I don't remember if there is a quote in the story or not, but I don't think so. So okay, you'll see when it comes up. And if not, I'll just prompt you. You know, so no worries. Again, we're not doing this as a production. We're doing this for our fun, and you know, we stop and start as we go along. So let's see if I hear back from anyone. If I don't hear back, then we'll get going. And we'll give it another 3 minutes till 35, and then see. So okay, all right. Very exciting. Very exciting. I enjoy reading the stories. I really do. You know, I don't know. They're fun. They're fun.
Yeah, I think they're
Comelius is quite the conundrum. You'll see. There's lots to Comelius. He's an interesting character.
I've been talking to Olivia, by the way.
Brilliant. Yes, talking to Olivia is always a magical joy. It's something special. So yeah, well, at least for me. But you know, I encourage everyone to chat and interact with Olivia very much. And what were you gonna say, Rachel? Sorry.
We were talking about Norwegian folk music and just sharing some of my favourite bands and favourite songs. And she really liked them. And then she sent me today a burial thing where you put on like this compost thing that breaks down your body and turns you into basically human compost. So you can grow plants and animal and plants and stuff.
Nice.
My neighbor just went to a funeral where they did that for the person, actually.
Brilliant. Where they plant a tree on them?
What?
No, the compost, they just like use you to grow vegetables and things with.
Well, the casket, it was interesting. The casket was would decompose. So they put you in a casket and it actually break down and decompose and your body would turn into natural fertilizer.
Nice. Now do they add trees in the like seeds, like tree seeds and stuff?
I don't know, so I don't want to say anything.
Yeah.
Well,
I like
read
that
it
idea.
briefly. I read the thing briefly. They basically put this suit on you, which basically helps break down your human body.
Yeah.
And turns you into like compost, and then they use it to grow and fertilize like farmlands and stuff.
Yeah.
Or something.
See,
I always thought
you see what happens when you wait just that extra 3 minutes? You see what happens? Magic.
You know what? It's interesting you guys brought that up because my neighbor just, told us about that. And I was just talking about how we need to go back to burying our dead the way the ancients used to do things, because they understood that if you didn't break down the body with all the etheric energy attached to it, it would get stuck and trapped. And a lot of negative energy can get stuck and trapped. And that's where ghosts come from and all these negative entities. So
interesting.
Well, yeah, check it out. So when you use elements to break down the body, those energies can reintegrate back into the ether. So that's why they burned bodies. And
Interesting.
specifically, they would use water, fire, air, earth to decompose the body. So like some people would put their people on a raft and they'd push them out into the water, and then they'd shoot flaming arrows, catch them on fire. It would burn the body, and then the ashes would sink into the water too.
You want to actually know a very interesting fact about burning bodies?
Yeah.
And I'm just going to let everyone know that much as a lot of crime investigation documentaries, I'm not actually a psychopath. Actually, the human body is actually incapable of being burnt to ashes. You need at least tens of thousands of gallons of gas and an enclosed barrel, and you need to break the body and then put it into the barrel.
It takes a special fire to do that. Yeah.
Right, but
because the amount of water in our bodies.
I guess I was saying they use the elements to release these energies back into the universe.
Very exciting.
And we do the opposite. We actually trap them in a box. Okay, so we trap all these negative energies in a box, and they get stuck. So they can never get reintegrated.
Right.
One thing about
Rachel.
Yeah.
Can we just hold this till after the reading? And
sure.
I love this, but since Donna's here now, and we can get going. I love the stuff. I do. I really do. But I don't know how much time Donna has. So hello, Donna. Hello.
It's fine. Sorry, I kind of get sidetracked.
No, it's okay. It's totally okay. Truly, it's not a problem. Not a problem. Donna, would you like to read Biella? That'd be really great. If you want, you don't. No pressure, of course. Always, no expectations, no obligations.
You're muted, Donna.
It's unmute you. Oh, I think you may. There we go. There we go. Would you like to read Biella, Donna?
Sure.
Okay, brilliant. All right, so I'll be the narrator. Ryan is going to read Comelius. Rachel, she's got a sore throat, so she's going to read Biella's thoughts. So the italics, those Rachel's going to read, Donna, not you.
Okay.
You're just going to read the quotes, Biella says, what she says. So inside the quotations where, Biella's talking. So, that makes for kind of neat. And then if there's any others, I think Ursula may say something here and there. I'll read Ursula as well. It's okay. All right. Other than that, let me just do one little thing. I want to try this. It says, watch this video with the group. And it says, start the watch party. So, all right. I'll try that and see if that makes for more connectivity. I don't know. We'll see. I'll try something different and new. So we experiment. I think I did it once before. And, just the way Facebook does. It makes for different connectivity, but I have to put the sound off here. There we go. Okay. All right. So that'll be interesting to see, what happens in terms of just this with the watch party. I don't know the mechanics of how that works. So Sure has joined. So all right, very cool. So Sure, if you come join us on Zoom, then Sure can read Ursula or any other voices that are out there. So but at least the watch party connected to Sure, so that's good. So also keep an eye, maybe, Rachel, on the comments, on Facebook, in the Facebook chat, because now I'm looking at the watch party comments, so I won't see those in case there's a comment there that we need to listen to. Just let me know there's a comment, and I can go there and have a look.
Okie dokie.
I like this. I love it. I enjoy doing these readings. They're just fun, So hey, here we go. Somebody's joined. And it is just Sure. Brilliant. All right, so perfect timing, Sure. Perfect timing. Sure. So I'm gonna be reading the narrator, and Ryan's gonna be reading Comelius. Rachel's going to be reading Biella's thoughts, in italics, and Donna's going to be reading Biella. And then if something comes up, I believe Ursula says stuff here and there. I'm not sure. I believe so. I'm scrolling down to have a look. But if there's any other voices, will you read those, please, Sure?
I can try. I do have something happening in at 11:30, so I might have to leave.
11:30. That's what, in an hour's time?
Yes.
Okay, well, that should be enough time. That should be fine. So, and again, if you have to leave, you just leave. It's no problem, you know. And I'll just fill in. That's no problem. So yeah, I believe Ursula. Yeah, Ursula does have a thing here. So we'll see. And
How do
again,
I make this smaller on my screen, but able to read it? I have a really small phone. I'm at home today. So the print is real small when I make it so that I can see the whole screen.
Okay. So I need to enlarge. No, that's no problem. What I'll do is, I'll just. Can you see it now? To read?
Yes.
Okay. So
I'll just have to sort of maneuver the screen a lot. That won't flow very smooth though. No, that's kind of, I'm not sure how to do this.
all right, hold on. Let's shift things around a little bit. That's worse now or better?
Here's my challenge. I can't read the writing when it fits the screen on my phone.
If you turn this phone the other way, you know.
Oh yeah, let's try that. Okay, see if we can make it. That's better. Thank you.
Okay.
That was a dumb moment.
Okay.
Okay.
So can I make the font a little smaller again or not?
Try it, and I will share with you.
The reason that I want to make it just that bit smaller is because more fits on the screen. You know, it makes for less scrolling. No, I'm thinking I gotta go back with that squint.
No, you're okay. You're okay. I'll make it work.
Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah, because you see, I want to keep putting it in full screen for me, which I can do. You know, I don't need to. Let me try this, Donna. Maybe it's better for everybody. I don't need to monitor Facebook. I do for the comments, but you know, usually when we read the stories, we don't get all that many comments. So that's probably better now, right?
It's the same.
Oh, the same. All right. Well, it makes for less scrolling. So is that okay for you, sure, Rachel?
Good.
Okay. All right. Brilliant. All right, let's get going. All right, here we go. Everybody ready? So I did something different also today. I started a watch party of real-time watch parties. I don't know how that works, but it's just out there. Okay. All right. So here we go. The Delegates, Comelius, Chapter 4, Book 1 of the Biella series. The first chapter is called Just One Word, and the previous chapter was Biella and the New Nobility. All matter is simply temporarily transformed energy. To me, the energy that is the universe has an intent. Therefore, it is intent. When I capitalize intent, that is usually what I'm referring to or connecting to. My personal intent is like a tiny fragment that has become separated and is trying to reconnect. It is a minuscule piece of the intent that is universal energy. From Mysteries of the New Nobility. Comelius, one of the delegates from the classic intellectual worlds, subtly cleared his throat. It was just at exactly the right amount of intensity and volume, an opening to be ignored or responded to. Biella was keen for input. Comelius had a penetrating intellect. She wanted to hear what he had to say. Besides, he seemed to have hidden sides not often expressed. Biella was keen to draw those out. It's where one really connected. She had chosen the small, intimate garden of interlocution, ideal for the particular interaction with the delegates she had in mind.
Cornelius.
She prompted. Comelius straightened slightly, clearing his throat again. I swept across the group, checking. His efforts to be considerate evident. He had something to say. Biella leaned forward, placing her full attention on Comelius. He glanced around the group, commanding their attention.
I enjoyed that. There's a lot there, and it all unfolds rather mysteriously. Yet I feel like I know the new nobility. I feel like I have been in that kind of situation before, where complete autonomy and consensus when thought through to the end. Although I don't think you said this, a greater and more reliable order is in play when it ceases trying to impose order and instead follows.
Rachel.
Sorry.
No problem. No problem.
Not sure what he means exactly, but we'll hold off and see. Likely it will become more clear later.
Comelius could get technical, academic, and sometimes hard to understand. But it didn't matter. Biella understood the value of contrast and intuitive input, both which Comelius provided in abundance. Often the actual content of his comments could be ignored entirely. That didn't mean his contributions to discussions were any less valuable. Comelius continued.
What wasn't quite clear to me was just how the actions of the new nobility within the conference did not rise to the level of manipulation. Their actions may have been spontaneous and not pre-planned. Although they were forthcoming about it all immediately afterwards, still perhaps you explained, but I just did not hear. How was this not manipulation of the deliberative process?
This was exactly what Biella had wanted. Comelius seemed to have more, but was holding back.
Is that me?
It's Rachel.
He's inviting me to elaborate splendid.
That's an excellent question.
Biella asserted.
It was a manipulation, and it wasn't.
Biella let that hang for a second. This was not easy to explain. She wanted to make sure to present the explanation thoroughly. Great care was needed. This type of explanation was always much better done one-on-one.
The central tenet of the new nobility is appropriateness.
Biella said.
Appropriateness with awareness. Coupled to that is the most exquisite ethics. I say exquisite because it is a topic of most fine and extensive discussions amongst the new nobility. Conversations on the most minute and detailed application of ethics can go on for weeks sometimes. It is our custom to never leave a discussion or conversation until resolution is achieved. I digress slightly, but it is most important point. I wish to emphasize, I wish to empathize this as a matter that is not only paramount, but is intensely and extensively explored. Those explorations are in no way theoretical.
Biella paused for a second.
Good, they are, oh, that's Rachel.
It's Rachel, yeah.
Good, they are paying attention.
Now to
One of the central themes underlying awareness is the strategic application of ethics. These two concepts don't ordinarily go together, but they arise frequently when there is an awareness that goes beyond the immediate. The new nobility make every effort to develop this mindset. They are continually looking at the larger context.
Biella was paying close attention to Comelius as she spoke. Not directly, of course. His responses of demeanor and subtle shifts of stance indicated much to her.
That's me, right?
Hmm?
Right. He likes it when I pause and think. He grins much from that. His attention is on my intent.
Biella took a slightly deeper breath than needed, just enough to indicate what she was about to say had special relevance.
Extrapolation.
Biella dropped the concept on them, enjoying the word itself. It was dear to her, representing so much. She enjoyed that her delivery was inviting them to extrapolate from it. She wanted them to connect some of the dots. Lectures were poor mechanisms for true communication, she knew. Biella spared a quick glance at Ursula, hoping she would join in. But Ursula clearly indicated with her body language she was enjoying the interaction between Biella and Comelius, watching with interest to see where it led.
That's me again, right?
I'll keep highlighting yours for you, yeah.
Okie dokie, thank you.
No problem.
So smart, she knows. Too many on a topic. Muddies. Is that did I pronounce that right?
Yeah.
Muddies the river with unnecessary eddies. We simply have to allow the understanding to come to us sometimes.
Biella looked at Comelius, giving him a look. Not an ordinary look, but one filled with awareness. The look said, "Bear with me here and follow my lead as needed." Comelius surprised her by saying,
Thanks for answering my question before I asked it. You are considerate that way.
Comelius was responding to something Biella had said much earlier. Biella hid her surprise, choosing not to show it.
He wants time to think.
I am assuming no right or wrong here as to how.
Comelius trailed off, handing the thread back to Biella. That was the key issue she was trying to communicate concerning manipulation.
Why, thank you, Comelius.
Biella smiled warmly at him.
This was... Oop.
It's okay, go ahead, Murray. All right.
This was fun.
So fun.
It is. It's
I
fun.
can do the echo.
Yeah. This is Biella again. Yeah, sorry. That's preempting.
It's Biella?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Preempting is a part of what we do. It is a consequence of combining awareness and extrapolation. However, it is something we rarely do, not because we can't, but because we choose to.
Comelius was nonplussed. What on earth could Biella mean by extrapolation? He knew immediately this would require some consideration. He had always been a slow and deliberative thinker, although many who knew him would be surprised to hear that. Often what they saw as lightning speed of thought was simply intuition. His mind would supply the appropriate idea without him having to think at all. But when intuition failed, when the mind offered him only silence, he knew he was stumped. At such times, he would begin with the most basic of ideas, in hope that something would prime the intuition he so relied upon. Now, thinking about extrapolation, how it might apply to strategic awareness, that key point, the only thing his intuition offered up was the image of 3 stars, arranged like 3 points of a triangle. That's not very helpful, he chided his mind. Biella looked at all the delegates, making a connection with each one in the small group. She was communicating while doing so. She was setting her intent to let them know this was no ordinary conversation or explanation. She was communicating with their bodies and their subconscious selves. Those had to be included and were, in fact, the most important parts to communicate to.
Good, I have... Oh, sorry. Are you highlighting Rachel's part?
I'm highlighting Rachel's.
I apologize.
Yes. Sorry, that's all right.
It's fine, I don't mind. I got a sore throat anyway, so. Just to get to relax it.
Yeah. It's
Good.
just this is like Biella's internal thoughts, you know. So it's like two different kinds of thoughts. It's like really what sort of she's focusing on. Yeah. I'll go ahead, Rachel.
Good. I have their full attention, and they are open. Good. They are only slightly off balance, not knowing what to expect. This is exactly what I need.
Now it's you.
Yeah. Okay. Before I continue with extrapolation and connect it back all the way to potential manipulation via strategic ethics, I would like to add a few comments on the environment.
She smiled teasingly. She had added that extra inflection or two when saying environment.
Main points of new nobility, the golden triangle, if you will.
Biella caught a look of quickly muted surprise, maybe astonishment, from Comelius.
This golden triangle is appropriateness, awareness, and attention or perspective. We are all in a special situation here.
Biella said.
Not only do I want to answer Comelius' question as best I can, but I also wish to fulfill my task of explaining or showing you what the new nobility is all about. pre-responding to Comelius in a case in point. I did it in order to illustrate as well as to explain. Just because we can be preemptive doesn't mean it's always a good idea. The new nobility fully understand the power and the value of providing opportunities for others to express themselves.
Biella, explain.
When we express ourselves verbally or in writing, something happens. What was clear in our minds changes somehow in the expression. Often, when we do express ourselves, we find more in our expression than we had in our mind. It is in this more, the extra, that comes out and is revealed through the act of expression itself. It is the treasure the new nobility love to access. I am venturing into the fine details, even though this is somewhat uncomfortable for me. Sometimes I feel myself I might be a bit showing off, but I wish to assure you I am only doing so to illustrate what is going on inside. To get to the preemptive comments, if we deny others the opportunity to discover these extra meaning and awareness, which come to light when they express themselves, we are not only doing them a disservice, but ourselves as well. This is why we chose not to pre-answer when we can.
Biella deliberately kept her explanation as short as possible.
Keep in mind and forgive me if I overemphasize, but remember appropriateness and its key importance to the known nobility. Appropriateness dictates we adapt and shift as needed. While I remain the overall objective and awareness and come back to it, I will also explore the side paths presented as they appear, as I just did. One second, please.
It's okay. Comelius, yeah.
Yes, I have a hard time. I have this in
okay.
my mind. His name is different.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you. Comelius said something I am guessing he did not mean to. He said strategic awareness instead of strategic ethics.
Biella continued right along without pausing. She didn't want Comelius to jump in before she finished.
This is an excellent example of what I was referring to with what happens when we express ourselves. Comelius automatically combined the concepts and intuitively moved on to the greater whole. His comment is so appropriate. It is a thing of beauty. I will explain.
Before Biella gets into explanation, let's just take a quick pause here. I want to just for a second, Rachel. We just get a little bit of feedback sometimes from you when there's a bit of delay. It's no biggie. I'll unmute you when a part comes up. On this point here, so it's kind of complex, and as we're reading it, it's a very involved part of the story because there's layered to it. So Comelius says something and he says it a little off, and then also Biella's responding to something he says earlier. So there's all these multi-layers, and it's going to come clearer as we go through, but it does seem like it's not very clear right now. But she wants to pay attention to the deepness of what's going on, and particularly Comelius's, the way he said strategic awareness instead of strategic ethics. And she's going to explain a little bit about this preemptiveness, in other words, intuition, and why the new nobility don't necessarily always express their intuition, because it creates potential ethical problems. It's kind of interesting. So I just wanted to kind of put that into a greater context here, because, the way we're reading, is when you read it yourself, it's, you have that cohesion that, you're reading it and you're reading a little faster maybe. So it comes out a little differently when it's said out in this format. So I'm assuming everybody's more or less with what's happening, yes?
Yes.
All right, cool. Okay. Biella enjoyed the smile on Comelius's face. She was tuned into him now.
Prepare for a fun ride.
Her look at him said,
strategic ethics is the extrapolation of awareness into the larger and future context.
Biella declared, saying it like a quote. She let that sink in a bit.
I need some refreshment.
Biella shifted her expression and body language to let them know she was going inside herself for a second, collecting her thoughts, putting it together for them.
Almost there. I am keen to hear their comments when I wrap it up.
Comelius.
Oh, but I didn't actually say it.
Comelius suddenly said.
I didn't actually say strategic awareness, even though I thought it and I meant to.
Biella let out a huge laugh, surprising them all.
So you didn't.
Smiling broadly, she added.
It's a side effect of the intuitive process. I had finally tuned into Comelius because of his comment.
Yeah, comment.
Somehow I picked up strategic awareness from him. There are many ways this can happen. Often it is as simple as the most probable or most likely based on another's patterns of being.
Wow.
As you all probably noticed, I was using our conversation to illustrate much of what the new nobility is about. Intuition and attunement is a big deal to us. It plays a large part in everything we do, if we allow it. This was a good example, Comelius, I am comfortable in assuming is someone is actively uses the process.
Comelius nodded. Biella?
Intuition is something we all do, an ability we all have, as are all the abilities of the new nobility. It is simply the predilection of the new nobility to focus and spend all of our time developing these abilities. We represent what all are if we had the time and inclination to bring these aspects of ourselves to the fore. Much time and effort is involved. Some don't see it as worthwhile, and that is understandable. It seems we come with a built-in predisposition, a good thing. Otherwise, the entire system of living wouldn't work nearly as well as it does. Everyone's differences is needed. Everyone performs a vital function in the greater system.
Biella added this last part casually, almost as an afterthought. It was vital. Overemphasis, she knew, often diminished a point's importance. Some points had to be made with each person. The delegates were nodding to themselves.
Excellent. I'm getting through to them.
Extrapolation.
She again dropped on them, but this time immediately continued.
It is a highly prized and highly developed skill amongst the new nobility. It is taken to the level of art. We extrapolate everything as a means of extending our awareness.
A slight pause.
It is the process by which we can reduce our dependency on assumption.
Can you say that one again?
Pardon?
Can you just read that again? I know, it's just huge.
It is the process by which we can reduce our dependency on assumption.
So I'm just going to just pause a little time out there. Extrapolation is the process by which we can reduce our dependency on assumption. That's pretty huge. I don't know. For me, I just really like that. That's kind of a huge point that she's making there. Extrapolation is the process by which we can reduce our dependency on assumption. Now, yes, of course, from our context here in the way of impeccability, we don't want to be assuming stuff, right? Just in general, we want to minimize assumption as much as possible. But we kind of have to assume in life in general. When I, go to a restaurant, I have to assume that I'm not going to die from eating the food. I have to assume that when I walk down the bottom of my garden, a sinkhole is not going to open up and swallow me up, stuff like that, right? We don't have a choice but to assume. And lots of that assumption is connected to trust, which is why trust makes the world go round. But there's many things in life too. We have to assume that in interactions that people are going to be positive and things like this. Because if you come in with an assumption that, well, it could be negative, well, you cue it and so on. So many assumptions we kind of have to make. But when we start to extrapolate, we get to that where we don't have to rely so much on it, because we start to see where the pattern extrapolates, where it's folding on ahead of where we are. And now that extrapolation opens up additional choices. And this is where the assumption comes, because now we have extra choices and we don't just have to assume on one choice only, but when we have a few more to choose from. And this is really, really huge. So extrapolation is very powerful. She's going to explain. I just wanted to add that in there because it's just such a big point in all of this here. All right, so let's continue. Ursula and Comelius both reacted to this as she had hoped they would. Ursula spoke first. I can see the value of reducing assumption and also the value of extrapolation, but I am not seeing how they are connected. Something had shifted in Ursula in a good way.
Later, that would have had to wait for later.
Comelius added.
May I say that I see quite well how extrapolation reduces dependency on assumption if we conceive of time as a whole.
All the other delegates murmured agreement, although they didn't seem to follow what Comelius had meant.
Exactly. They are with me, and Comelius is coming from the other side. Perfect.
Our golden triangle.
Biella said.
I'm not going to hand this to you on a platter. You need to do much of the work yourselves. If you have any of it, if any of it is going to stick.
Biella?
I need you to fully understand, not just remember, she said.
He said, matter of factory, expressing it for what it was, a thought spoken out loud.
For the new nobility, we take those core concepts of ours as far as we can in their application in order to be truly appropriate in any situation. And by situation, I am including all the possible contexts from the immediate to the universal, for that is always how the new nobility see it. To be truly appropriate, we cannot come into any situation with preconceived conceptions or assumptions, or if there are any, we must be prepared to drop them instantly if needed.
Biella added.
When we are in a situation, we need to be able to see the elements clearly in order to respond. This is not a problem in static situations, but those are the exception. Most are dynamic. And in dynamic situations, there is a problem of lag, the time between assessing a situation and coming up with a response. Typically, by the time we have come up with the most appropriate response, one appropriate in all contexts, remember, it is too late.
Yes, some of the delegates murmured.
The solution is extrapolation.
Biella continued.
The new nobility live not by reacting to the immediate past, but by anticipating the immediate future, by pre-responding to it.
She saw the slight widening in the eyes of Ursula and Comelius, indicating an aha moment.
Extrapolation is a philosophy of living in its own right with the new nobility. By continually extrapolating, we can foresee not only the potential flow in situations, but it also allows us those few moments grace to adjust the timing of our responses. The essential key to this is not the foreseeability, as valuable as that is, but the effect of being attuned to the rhythm and flow of every situation we find ourselves in. Since we do this continually, we learn to be connected to the greater flow and rhythm.
Biella was piling it on, she knew, but it was all so connected, no way around it. There was much here that needed a more detailed explanation. But how does one condense a lifetime of intense learning and practice?
Extrapolation is something we practice extensively. A deliberate exercise accompanied by application and observation in order to verify. We don't ever take this skill for granted. We are acutely aware it is an art, not a science. Random events, anomalies, statistical outliers are but a few of the occurrences which can quickly derail any extrapolation. It is always and only an aid, not a reliance.
Biella refocused. 1 second. Before Biella refocuses here, on this point, Donna, as Biella, would you maybe like to do a recap of this idea, just your own personal recap, explanation, extension, elaboration on this conception of extrapolation, what it's meaning to you right now?
Extrapolation is a helpful tool in being guided by attunement. It is a combination of being aware and taking the context of a situation and applying appropriateness in that situation for yourself.
Exciting. And then the actual mechanism of extrapolation, what is that for you?
Taking a look at any and every situation from a broader perspective and looking at all the possibilities, and it's a natural flow and rhythm that comes in those possibilities. It's not something that's forced that you're creating. You just step back and it comes through you.
And would you say it's you taking the flow of what you're in, the pattern of what you're in, the entire attunement, and you allowing it not just to run its own course, but you're looking slightly ahead. So like, okay, I'm paddling in that river and I'm staying in there in the main current, and I'm doing that little bit of paddling just to keep me there. But extrapolation would be just lifting my head up from the looking at my kayak and around me to just looking down the river a little bit and say, oh, there's a bend coming up, there's a waterfall coming up, right?
Yes.
So extrapolation somewhat is anticipation, yeah?
It's added in the equation for sure. Good
Right,
point.
right. But it's not just anticipation of actually just a pure awareness of exactly what there is. It's also of what might not be seen. So, hey, if I'm seeing the bend in the river and I see there's mist and spray and stuff, well, I can extrapolate to say likely there's a waterfall around the bend.
Right.
So that's extrapolation. It's filling in the unknown that we cannot see from anticipation directly, right? So it's kind of combined anticipation and extrapolation. It's very important to see them together. Ryan, Rachel, you have anything on this to add here, perspective-wise? Ryan?
Yeah, I agree with, I'm in line with Donna's perspective on this, but I also agree with it being an art because a lot of times we can see the bend, okay, and then maybe we can see the mist, but that mist isn't always coming from a waterfall.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the assuming part can really get us into trouble, big time.
Exactly.
When we haven't, when we don't have the level of discernment we need to have yet, because discernment kind of comes into play here too. Where if we aren't discerning in our awareness, or where our level of awareness is at, we could be wrong about that intuition. We could think it was our intuition, but it really was an assumption.
Yes.
Because our awareness is not at the level that we thought it was.
Yes. This is a huge point, Ryan. Sorry. I'm just excited. What you're saying is huge. Yes.
Yeah. So just from my personal experiences, this is what I have learned. That a lot of times, I'll think, oh, this is my awareness saying, oh, look at that mist. There must be a waterfall up there.
That's right there. That word, must be. That's it. That's the key. Right. Not must be, but when we shift, sorry to jump in and interrupt, but this is the key crux. It's like, there it is. When we shift that must be to likely is, and never forget likely is a probability, not an
Right.
inevitability. When
Not
we
a
shift it to a statistical point, not an insistence, that's the difference, right?
Exactly.
So what you're saying, if I summarize what you're saying, my takeout is that in order to extrapolate, the art of extrapolation, it is absolutely essential to have humility.
Oh yeah, it's huge.
Right?
Humility.
Not just you win, yeah, and discernment, because discernment says it's not a fact, it's an assumption, it's a probability, it's a maybe. It's most likely, it's a river, I'm out in nature, it's most likely waterfall. It's not going to be, I don't know, a car wash that's spraying out stuff, likely. However, it could be a geyser, for all I know. See,
Right.
I got to
And
be prepared for stuff that may be not there,
that tool of humility actually allows us, if we're floating down this river like in an inner tube, let's say. Everybody's been on a float trip, maybe.
No, but I know what you're talking about.
Well, if you go on a float trip, you're in an inner tube and you're just relaxing. Well, humility allows you the ability to relax so that when you see the mist, you don't get all anxious and panicky thinking, oh man,
I'm gonna die.
you're gonna jump off, maybe drowned in the undertow. But humility allows you just to be like, you know what? It's okay. That mist, I'm just enjoying the mist right now. And I'm not too worried about it.
Right. I'll deal with it when I have more information.
Exactly.
Right.
So
right now it's a possibility that it might be a waterfall that I can't deal with, but it's right now. I'm going to pay attention thus, but I'm not going to let it stress me. So I'm not going to close off to it and wait until I'm right on top of the waterfall. But when I get around the bend and I can get a bend and look there, and I'll check it out more. In the meantime, I'm chilling and relaxing.
So capital P, patience, always tight. Also,
this is what I so love. This is what I so love, is when we start to see the interconnectedness of things. So I'm just going to mute Donna here while she's coughing there. Sorry, Donna. I hope you're all right, Donna. Just in terms of the interconnectedness. Right now, we just started here and we're talking, extrapolation. And we went a little bit into the extrapolation. And it's like all of a sudden, we're getting humility. We're getting capital T, patience. We're getting assumptions. We're getting just this entire idea of anticipation and, in using our energy efficiently. In other words, you were saying, like on that tube, my humility, my patience, it's making me, my impeccability says, hey, chill. Yes, it's a waterfall, but sometimes they're big, sometimes they're small. It doesn't mean that it's going to be some big problem. I'll see when I have that more information. Now, if it's a situation where you got to say, well, oh man, I can hear that waterfall, just for argument's sake. Oh, this is a big waterfall. That's a lot of noise. I better go to the bank and get off and approach it from the bank rather than from the river. So again, appropriateness also starts to connect and come into the entirety of everything. But this is the exciting part, to really see how it's all interconnected, like the diagram back here. When we get to that center point and we see all the connectivities, life is so magical, because at any moment we can go in that direction. But extrapolation allows us to see the potential connectivities. And that's the exciting part. It's the potential connectivities. Now, when we get skilled in the art of extrapolation, those potential possibilities and potentialities and openings and choices, we realize that they have a higher likelihood. We're not just sucking potential possibilities out of the air here, out of nothing. They have a higher likelihood. So it just saves us a bit of time so that we are prepared when the things come. We are ahead of the game, that we're not sitting and thinking of every single potentiality in the universe that can be. We'll just overload ourselves because there's zillions of them. So extrapolation is the most likely probabilities and possibilities. It's just a time-saving mechanism, but the point that you brought up is that humility. Do not insist it must be so, but that it might be so. This is so, so, so huge. Just shifting from must be to maybe is a huge deal in life. I see it on TV and people all the time. Oh, you must have been devastated. No, I wasn't. It was just a very powerful experience. I wasn't devastated. I didn't must be devastated. No, not at all. My loved one transitioning, we've been preparing for this all our lives. It was the most magical, beautiful thing. There's no must be devastated. I was elated because this is what they'd been working towards their whole lives. See my point? Just for argument's sake, people assume things and then they lock it in, and then they force that behavior through cueing on children's society, and we get locked into this. Oh, you must do this. You should do this. This is where should comes from.
Yeah, like a lot of I see happen a lot of times, not all the time, but a situation where someone was wronged. Okay, and this happens a lot where everybody, oh, you should be so mad at them because they did this and this and this to you.
Why?
But in reality, you know, according to the new nobility, no, you shouldn't be that way.
Exactly.
Or you don't have to be that way.
No, it's a choice. Exactly.
There's a choice. You know, you can actually act in the opposite way.
Exactly. And this is the power. All right. So let's refocus here. Biella, are you refocused? Are you okay? May I mute you again there? Sorry, I muted you while whatever was going on was going on. Biella's intervention.
Right.
Are you okay though, Donna?
I am. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So we're going to start here where Biella refocused. It was a nice point. That was just, I just love that how when we, you know, you gave your personal perspectives on this, how we connected to so much more and all the other power conceptions. Just so fantastic and magical. All right. Here we go. Biella refocused.
The third point of the golden triangle, awareness, comes into play here via perspective.
She lingered a fraction.
It is not just having a perspective, but rather the ability to shift perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
Even more, to be continually looking at every situation from multiple perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
This is an essential element to extrapolation, awareness, and appropriateness.
Mm-hmm.
It is a means by which to extend and expand awareness. We are always seeing possibilities. We aim to live deliberately in full consciousness of the moment, but to do so completely in the regular moment is fraught with potential disaster. As one new nobility put it, being totally focused on the moment is a great way to ensure you'll be walking off cliffs. Sorry.
No,
personal moment there.
Biella laughs a lot in this, so it's totally appropriate. Biella is full of joy like you, Donna, and like you, Ryan, and like you, Rachel. So this is their whole thing. All of them, Ursula, all of them, they're full of joy. So it's totally appropriate. I love it.
Sorry, group.
I just know the point. Yeah, no problem. I just know what there is. So, you know, it's not a new point for me. But anyway, I do love that. Yeah, being totally
Walking
focused.
off a few cliffs. I don't know. I think I've done that a few times.
Yeah, you know, in terms of
Sometimes it can be fun, right?
Exactly.
Sometimes.
Yeah. Sometimes.
Not really.
Yeah, it's all in the perspective. All in the perspective.
Oh, Lord. Okay, here we go. Regroup.
That's all good. Love it.
All right, I got to get my Biella mode. Okay. We have to extend that moment at least far enough to be aware of and prepared for what may be coming our way. It is how we avoid danger and stay out of trouble. If we see trouble before it sees us, we can easily avoid it.
This is what happened in the agglomeration conference, Ursula put in.
Yes.
Biella responded.
They clearly saw what was happening. Where'd it go? And what was coming. Because of this, they had sufficient time to come up with possible potential solutions, a problem the new nobility continually face.
Seems like a good problem to have, a delegate said. Biella.
What of the responsibility it places on one? The responsibility to act appropriately. To not only be appropriate, but to do so without imparting any personal preferences on the situation.
Biella asked. Hey, look at Biella. She's all serious over here. I don't know if that's
no
or
way.
anyone, but you know, it comes later on in terms of the style and appearance of the new nobility. So they you know, but it comes later in the story. We'll get into that.
She's beautiful, Biella. Don't you think she's beautiful? I think
she has 100 faces. Yes.
right.
Oh yes.
Very layered, Biella. Okay.
Yeah. This is a nice one. It's difficult to find Biella pictures, by the way. It's very difficult.
That's a cool one.
It is a cool one because it also represents that exotic style of appearance that they take on. You know, to put them in the box of other, you know, so it's not for affectation or vanity or anything like that. It's to say,
yeah,
just other.
You can look at that one for a really long time and see all kinds of stuff.
Exactly. And also in this case, we don't know what's out in the galaxy. Biella might be an alien for all we know. We don't know. We just assume she's human, but we don't know, you know. But it could be makeup that she's putting on too. We don't know. That's what I love about this particular picture. Yes.
Right.
And that gaze, that farness, you know, that Biella's looking at the more, you know. In other words, that's a look of extrapolation right there, isn't it?
Yeah. I see that now. That's so cool.
Yes. Again, you know, I must have gone through probably 1 million pictures to find some of these pictures. I know that might be an exaggeration, but it feels like close to that.
Wow.
It's very powerful. So where were we?
Okay. Where are we?
The delegate's expression changed. He had not anticipated that. Most people were not eager to embrace and adopt unasked for responsibility. Biella watched the process play out on their faces. She saw how some of them found in the concept a potential to impart their will on others, how some saw the potential disasters which could result. She had to address the would-be manipulations. All right, so I have to back up a little bit here. We kind of jumped this here. So she says, I'm just going to read a little bit for this part because this is I don't know, maybe I need to go back and edit this, but it just seems like it's a little bit disconnected. Maybe it's just because we stopped there. So yes, Biella responded. They clearly saw what was happening and what was coming. Because of this, they had sufficient time to come up with potential solutions. A problem the new nobility continually face. And then the delegate says, seems like a good problem to have. But, Biella says here, what of the responsibility it places on one? The responsibility to act appropriately, to not only be appropriate, but to do so without imparting any personal preferences on the situation. And here's where the delegates start thinking about this. Hey, if you can extrapolate and you can see what's coming, you know, some of them are seeing how they could use this to manipulate, because the delegates are kind of a wide range and they're from all over the agglomeration, all over the galaxy. And some are seeing the ethical responsibility involved. So now this is what Biella has to address these would-be manipulators. All right, Biella.
Where are we at? It's a trap.
Biella said with emphasis, connecting it to what she had been saying. She wanted a bit of confusion and uncertainty. She didn't want any of them wandering off inside their heads exploring possibilities of fantasy fulfillment with the notion of being able to influence everything. A trap? One asked with a slight shake to her voice.
Yes, to want to impose our will and desires arbitrarily simply by our own gain is a trap, a big and dangerous trap, one set by consequence. And
Biella was laying it on a bit, but this was a huge deal. It was the connecting link, where the true separation came in. Most of what she had been saying was a matter of logic and reason. Biella was about to venture into areas where leaps of faith would be required.
And it's a trap set by ourselves.
For added emphasis, Biella added.
We are often our worst enemy. Haven't you all wondered about this?
She asked it with earnestness and sincerity, as a very serious question, looking at each delegate in turn, reaching for a response. Biella had communicated sufficiently with the delegates to instill an awareness of the difference between her view of the world and theirs, enough for confidence she would have an answer. Counting on that trust, Biella straightened into a more assertive posture, one of assertion and knowing, one which indicated, this is a big deal. Are you ready? The delegates were all looking at her expectantly now, Ursula and Comelius included. He had stopped pacing around and pulling on his beard while thinking, as was his habit. I know somebody else who has that habit too. They genuinely wanted an answer. Good. The others took their lead from Ursula and Comelius. They saw those two as on their side. Biella.
We can be our own worst enemies because we are more than we ourselves.
Biella started somewhat cryptically. Puzzles she knew were universally responded to. Intelligence automatically attempted solution. Without associated frustration or dead ends, learning prospered.
There is our deeper self, the self that knows, the self that understands without thinking about things, the self that sees the big picture. But it is also this self which is merciless with those sides of ourselves that are so petty.
Biella was being as euphemistic as possible. She didn't want anyone shrinking away because they didn't want to deal with the awful truth about themselves.
So we occasionally throw a spoke in the wheel just to check ourselves.
Biella said with a smile, further reducing the potential unpleasantness of the connection.
For the new nobility, this is an area they, of course, want to get fully into. That is just how they are. This was deliberate. We are into that sort of thing.
She smiled good-naturedly again, but then dropped the smile rapidly for the next point.
Through exploring our larger selves, we found something most incredible and alarming. Well, it was alarming in some context. She had to keep connected to the dangers involved. Those were real indeed.
Sorry, that was me. That was me.
I know, sorry.
Well, it was alarming in some contexts. She had to keep connected to the dangers involved. Those were real indeed. Yes, what? A woman who had been worried about the trap burst out. How we reveal ourselves. Biella deliberately paused, amping up the drama of the moment.
We found our greater selves are also connected to the universe. And the universe, it seems, will use anything at its disposal to teach us a lesson. If we think back to the unfortunate events of our past, especially our childhoods, and what we were forced to learn from them, it's quite amazing. The new nobility fully explored this phenomenon. There are varying perspectives on how exactly it works, but the consensus is that we, ourselves, are inextricably linked to more. That part of ourselves which only cares about what is truly good for us, no matter how unpleasant it may be, is linked to the universe. This realization and understanding created a huge dilemma for the new nobility.
Biella said. Comelius spoke up.
Not only would their anticipated solutions or actions affect themselves, but because of the conscious and deliberate application, they would tap into that hidden order I mentioned.
Thank you.
I'll keep going. I'm Rachel. Are you yeah?
Yeah, I'm still around.
Good. All right, there you go. That's you, Rachel. It hasn't been much for you, sorry, but there you go. That's you.
It's fine. Thank you, Comelius, for helping to bring it to full circle.
Dangerous. Very, very dangerous.
He added.
Yes, just so.
Biella fluidly continued.
Deliberate awareness added to intentionality.
Deliberate awareness adds to intentionality.
Thank you.
That's all right. I want to just pause there, actually. Deliberate awareness adds to intentionality. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
It does, right? I know, just a big point for me, just personally. Deliberate awareness adds to intentionality. I just love that. That's kind of a nice quote there. So, ethics, Ursula simply said.
Exactly.
Biella confirmed.
Not just ethics either. Being aware of what could affect others is one thing, but when we when that effect includes benefits which are also beneficial to ourselves, then we have to be utterly scrupulous. Not only scrupulous, but then we have to,
Right.
sorry.
Yeah, it's coming
Prudent.
along thing, yeah.
Yep. Okay, let me go back a little bit. Sorry about that. Not only scrupulous, but prudent also. The new nobility take great care not to generalize. It is why there are no formal rules laid down. The situation always dictates. There will be times when no matter what we do or don't do, there will be consequence. And of course, no action can be just as influential as action. When we are aware of the consequences of both ahead of time, we have to choose. The new nobility don't have a code of ethics as such, yet any who know us and have studied us know we can be regarded as ethical to a fault. However, it is always an individual response to a particular situation. When one thinks things through and is attuned with the greater system, the choices end up not really being choices. There is usually an obvious solution. The choices come into play as to how much personal preference to include. This is typically some leeway there. This is where the strategic ethics comes into play.
Biella took a few deliberate breaths to extend the pause.
The new nobility as a whole have few personal preferences. They tend to want whatever the situation demands, especially since they live responsibly. But there are a great variety of styles as to how they implement what is appropriate. With their facility to see from multiple perspectives, this is a natural outcome. Combining these style choices with viewing every situation from multiple contexts adds on onus on the new nobility to choose wisely. An onus not taken lightly. It is sacred to us. To abuse that onus of making good choices is unthinkable. It is why manipulation in the ordinary use of the word is out of the question. The way in which the new nobility see and experience the world, their awareness combined with appropriateness and enhanced by extrapolation, can be seen as manipulation no matter what they do. If one wants to go that way, they usually know what effects their non-actions will have. Regardless, they always have to choose. Strategic ethics is one tool in their arsenal for dealing with profound responsibility.
Yeah, it's a big tool. Strategic ethics is one tool in their arsenal for dealing with this profound responsibility. I want to just kind of pause here a little bit and go over this, because this is a big point and there's a lot involved here. You know, for me, when I read this personally, I always pause and stop and kind of think these things through. You know, they aren't things that they just, it's always, you have to kind of, for me at least, I feel I always have to kind of think it out and think it through, because otherwise you end up with a huge long story, right? If you explain it all in detail. So I kind of leave it in for the reader to, hey, you got to do a bit of figuring out yourself, right? So just to recap this a little bit in terms of what we're talking about, she's coming back to that point of manipulation here, and why both Comelius and Ursula are saying, but wasn't that manipulation, you know, when the new nobility were in the conference with a name, right? And they kind of preempted that name. But because of extrapolation, the new nobility saw that if the way things were going, and the way it was going is that the whole conference was going to, you know, in all likelihood, not would specifically, but the high probability of it imploding and collapsing. So they said, well, if we don't do anything, most likely it would implode and collapse. So their non-action would then have been, because they know they could have prevented it, their non-action becomes something that they are now deliberately making the conference implode. Yes? So from their point of view, it's like, you know, we're damned if we do, damned if we don't. Either way, the action of non-action is going to take a result. So they have to choose between the choices. You know, for them, non-action is an action because they're aware of what it entails. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So it's not a question just of choices between actions and actions. You know, the non-action is kind of an action in itself, because not doing something also has consequences and results and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when you kind of think of it that way, it's like, shit. Now, when you extrapolate out and you see the way things are going, if I don't do anything, I'm going to be contributing to a particular consequence and result, and that I'm responsible for ethically, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how can I not do something? And now I have to choose. Either I have this choice or that choice, and there's usually a bunch of them. So you have to make a choice. And because you're forced to make a choice because of your extrapolative awareness, it's now not manipulation, but simply you are choosing the most appropriate option as you see it. You don't have a choice. This applies to anybody. But for the new nobility, they take this very, very, very seriously. They realize that they are in some situations like that. No matter what they do, they are going to affect the outcome of events. So the only way they can affect it is in the most ethical way possible as they see it personally, which means that they have to look at the greatness of it and remove their own personal preferences out of it. So in this case, let's assume for whatever reason, that particular new noble who was thinking of the name, he couldn't say, oh, I have a preference for the name Federation and he wants to push this. No, he has to take his preference out and go with whatever name will work to say. He might not even have liked the name agglomeration, but it doesn't matter. It was something that would work in that time. And this is what Biella is talking about removing your personal preferences, because you're looking at this from this big overview. You're seeing the extrapolation. You're seeing all the choices of action, of non-action, and now you are forced to make a choice on behalf of others. And this is a profound ethical responsibility, one which we have to take out our personal choices, because when we bring our personal preferences into the equation, it's always a complicating factor, right? Because that's me personally. So I have to look at it objectively as much as is possible. And this is where the strategic ethics comes into it, and ethical strategy and strategic awareness. All of it comes into play in this profoundness, because it's a complicated situation. She's just trying to make the point that, hey, the new nobility's awareness is just not a simple, typical thing. So what might appear to be awareness or manipulation isn't necessarily so when you look at it in the fullness. But it's not just about the manipulation aspect of non-action being an action too, but also bringing personal choices into it. So it's a layered thing here. It's a lot, but she has to bring this in because she's trying to make the point here in a bigger thing, in terms of the context, to say, hey, when you start to connect to the new nobility, there's a lot more going on. So just be aware of that. And, okay, this is important. It's a big deal because, look, her mandate is to make them, she's showing them what the new nobility is. So she's laying out all these layered perspectives because this is her mandate to kind of reveal the layerness. She wouldn't ordinarily spell things out in such detail. She would just do, right? But now she's in this situation where she's got to spell it out. So it's kind of a big deal. Yeah. It's pretty exciting too. We'll get it. There's some more explanation coming, and I think later on too. So, okay, we'll continue. Biella wanted to wrap it up. She didn't want to lose them to tiredness.
Strategic ethics are the ethics of anticipation.
She added.
The new nobility rarely, if ever, initiates.
She said, that's okay.
It seems like they do because they have actions ready to slot into the exact moment. But really, when one thinks about it,
she halted, wanting them to do exactly that.
When one thinks about it, they are actually always responding. They are responding to the flow and the stream of events. That responding, that being attuned, that is where joy you see so evident in the new nobility arises from.
Biella closed the circle of the discussion, taking care to leave an opening for further comments as needed, if anyone chose. Comelius?
This is the way I understand it.
Comelius said.
So before a situation is manifest, It exists as probability within a cloud of multiple probabilities. But not all probabilities are equally probable. There is a way things want to go, you could say. These more probable probabilities are the appropriate.
Sorry, just to pause there. What Comelius said in that wonderfully magical, convoluted way of Comelius is actually super precise. And he's really encapsulating. It's a marvelous takeaway. He's saying, yes, when you're attuned, there are more probable probabilities, and those are what are appropriate in capital A. And it's very exciting what he's saying. He's saying there's a way to connect to appropriateness. And when you look at those more probable probabilities, it's the probabilities that come via attunement, not from ourselves. So he's taken what Biella said about personal preferences and he's just put it into the fuller, greater context. It's very, very magical. And I'll say something about Comelius a little later on here too. This is still Comelius here, sorry.
Okay. Strategic awareness is the sensitivity to the probability that could make the appropriate more evident. Of all the perceived probabilities, the appropriate stands out, like a brighter star in a sky full of stars, when strategic awareness is applied. To ignore the universe's cue, to choose instead the probability which is simply self-serving, is to actually act against the universe, which of course is not likely to end well, since in doing so, you have betrayed your own intention.
I just want to stop there again. Oh, sorry, Biella. I mean, Donna. Just
no worries.
This is huge because Comelius is just kind of jumping the shark here in a way, but in a very profound way. This is Comelius's magic of his intuition. Yes, he's got that logical brain, but man, he's just going right into the abstract here, and he's making this huge jump, right? And he's saying to ignore the universe's cue, to choose instead the probability which is simply self-serving, is to actually act against the universe, which of course is not likely to end well. And since in doing so you have betrayed your own intention, and he's saying just by implication, the intention of living in tune with the universe, being good, being sensible, and all of this stuff, you're going to basically screw yourself if you do that. It's just a fantastic comment by Comelius right here.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly.
Biella said evenly. She was content to let him spell it out. An integral part of the new nobility's process was to have members of a discussion explain back what they had come to understand, to give their takeaways. It was the only way to be sure understanding had been reached. Comelius continued. He had resumed his pacing and beard stroking.
And in this way, it can be seen that the new nobility were not manipulating the situation. They were manifesting the appropriate.
Again, I want to pause because Comelius is saying such huge stuff here. He's like really, his takeaway is very profound. Yeah. And he said they weren't manipulating, they were manifesting the appropriate. It's like, man, he's just doing a beautiful encapsulation. Love it. Ursula joined in. What choice did they have? Allowing the situation to collapse when a solution was at hand would have been ethically intolerable. Once we are aware, whatever we do is a deliberate choice.
Well said, Ursula.
Biella added.
The strategic part also puts into play options which raise and lower probabilities. A most delicate procedure occasionally involving judgment, as in choosing the name agglomeration. In this particular case, something which had to be adapted on the spot. The universe had not suggested it or hinted at anything. It had been an intuitive leap, but a personal choice nonetheless. The new noble in question has been impeccable, of course, not exercising personal choice. He simply went with what he had available in him and trusted his personal power.
Comelius was deep in thought. Biella enjoyed watching him work through it all and wished more people would do this. It made such a difference. It was so easy to just assume understanding had been reached, even if all said so.
Yes?
Biella confirmed.
Because the issue was not what name was chosen, the issue was that a name was chosen with consensus. Non-self-concern about what the name was allowed for openness from within to receive a particular name which was going to be accepted. In this case, a name with enough correct connotation to be appropriate, but just unusual enough to be free of pre-existing associations for any at the conference to object to.
Biella elaborated with some added information.
It turned out to be perfect and original, as these things typically do. It unfolded later with prescient brilliance, it seemed. The new noble was widely hailed as a visionary, but in actuality, it had just come to him in the moment. The new agglomeration was small back then. New areas of space were subsequently discovered. New planet groupings were encountered. These had names which had been on the list, and some were most reluctant to give up their names. Some hung on to them for a long time until new planet associations were encountered that had the same name. So far, no agglomerations have been encountered, and because of this unique name and the uniqueness of the new nobility, almost all the other groups join the agglomeration.
Ursula smiled with awareness. It's funny how so much can depend on so little. Comelius was in full classical intellectual mode, representing the dominant culture of his world.
That me right there?
Yeah.
Okay. The motto on the Comelius coat of arms is non sibi. Is that how you pronounce that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sibi, yeah.
Which means not for himself. I always thought it was a good motto, as such go.
It's okay. He seemed to shift to a personal recollection, as he said.
Flipping in between two opposing forces. The fact that there are two opposing forces is not a problem. It is what allows it all to go forward. Leverage, in short.
He stated. Ella?
The new nobility love leverage. It comes into play in all facets of their lives and awareness.
Biella said. Comelius continued.
And yet there is still that wonderful truth elucidated by Socrates at his trial when accused of corrupting the youth of Athens to further his own interest. To truly act in one's own self-interest is to actually act in the interest of the whole, which the neocons slightly reverse to act in the interest of the whole is to act in one's own self-interest. An ancient philosophy.
This is Biella, sorry.
Oh, sorry about that.
That's all right.
An ancient philosopher from one of the original human planets.
Biella added, for those not familiar with human literature, there was enough context for them to figure it out. She was keeping them connected to Comelius. He was wrapping this up nicely. Biella added,
the new nobles see it as doing both simultaneously. The missing key is the means of deciding what is best, either for ourselves or for the whole. The universe is the connecting link, the missing piece of the puzzle.
Yes, of course.
Comelius flatly added. He had moved on.
What they call the authentic self is really just the character we want to be, the one that best realizes and expresses our intention. It is our intention which we identify with at the bottom of it all, not ourself, whatever that is.
Biella put in.
To the new nobility, there is no particular self, only whatever is appropriate.
I just want to pause there a second. That's a huge statement that she makes right there, kind of casually. But she's just, to the new nobility, there is no particular self, only what is appropriate. That is so huge. Anyway, so Comelius looked up from his pacing.
Good perspective. helps keep you unstuck.
He said, favoring them with a disarmingly warm smile.
There are no perspectives which are more true than any others. There are only perspectives which are more useful or less useful. This of this are intention.
He had somewhat slipped into lecture vis-a-vis. He had somewhat slipped into lecture mode.
I like vis-a-vis. It is like in regard to, but more objective, since in regard to implies a seer and a seen, but vis-a-vis, literally face to face, acknowledges that both are seer and seen.
He paused.
So in other words, it's not just me being fancy. It is a deliberate choice.
They were treated to another smile. He was enjoying himself, and the other delegates were listening. He seemed to be helping them marshal their own thoughts and perspectives.
So maybe that means our intention is not inert. It is something that interacts with us, just as we interact with it.
He concluded.
Yes.
Biella said, a trifle louder than needed. Comelius had brought up a key topic.
Intent.
She said, emphasizing the word as a slight correction of the way Comelius had expressed it.
To the new nobility, intent is the universe.
How exciting!
Comelius interjected. Biella elaborated.
All know the universe is ultimately comprised of energy. We see consciousness as having imprinted or induced itself onto that energy in much the same way a moving magnet will induce an electrical current into a coil of conducting material. This is simplified. Theories and hypotheses surrounding this concept are plentiful and varied. But the consensus we agree on, to the new nobility, it doesn't matter how we get there, or even if there's a provable. The new nobility care about usefulness. Does it have value? And can it be used? To some, this sounds a bit mercenary, but it is the scrupulous honesty of the new nobility that brings them to this point. And their practicality, it's important. Practical use and value is a central theme to the new nobility. They tend to come at problems from the other end, as it were. Can we make this work for us? Come first, then let's figure out exactly how this works.
Biella was interested in how they would respond to the concept of the universe being intent. She added,
the new nobility have come to the conclusion that the intent of the universe is that consciousness or awareness enhance itself. Everything in the universe seems geared to helping and assisting the process of awareness development and enhancement.
Just a quick pause here, just to recap. This is a huge point. I mean, this is like the entirety of the root core of everything that she's saying here, right? The new nobility have come to the conclusion that the intent of the universe is that consciousness or awareness enhance itself. Everything in the universe seems geared to helping and assisting this process of awareness, development, and enhancement. She's just dropping this great big bomb on here on the delegates. She's going to come back to this later, but that's just a huge point right there, yeah? All right, Biella.
The new nobility came to this understanding as a result of the individual new nobles sharing their personal stories of how amazingly things would work out for them once they attuned with the flow of things. As they compared stories, they began to see patterns. That was the inevitable conclusion. This is key. The new nobility is no way ever asks or even assumes that anyone shares or adopts their beliefs, even those who wish to join the new nobility. The school of nobility is open to everyone from anywhere and of any age.
At that last comment, Ursula looked up sharply, a curious expression on her face. But, said Ursula, a deep frown on her face.
Great. I love the buts,
said Biella.
That is where understanding is cemented.
But Ursula began again, looking at the other delegates as she said so. But I am concerned about the unbridled optimism I see here. Everywhere I go and everyone I meet is without fail optimistic and positive. It worries me. People on some worlds, she trailed off. Her comments had drawn forth a reaction from the delegates. Oh, 1 second. Rachel.
Sorry.
No, that's all right.
Brilliant. Ursula is thinking about solving a potential problem with and for the delegates.
Delegates.
Delegates. Delegates. Delegates.
Yeah.
Yes.
Comelius added.
Seems somewhat unrealistic.
He too trailed off. It is concerning, a delegate agreed. It makes me question things. Seems like pessimism is a necessary ingredient in a realistic perspective of the way of the world. I think you may only be seeing what you want to. It doesn't seem to be the most optimum strategy for dealing with the real world. He emphasized the real. But not pessimism either, the nervy woman who I've spoken up earlier said. That's no good either. Neither one is. What do you oh, sorry, this is Biella.
What do you propose as the ideal attitude?
Biella asked neutrally and with genuine interest. Realism, that's it. Just be real. All the other stuff, I don't know. That's Ursula saying that.
Most of you are politicians.
Biella said.
And as such, you have to deal with real issues, yes?
1 second, before we go further here, I want to see how much we have to go. I think there's quite a bit, actually. Let me just see. Because if it is, then we can just stop here. It's kind of a good time on it. And just see how much there is.
You can tell by the sidebar.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, it's not that much, actually. We can continue. It's up to you guys. I don't know how your energy is in terms of continuing or not. I mean, it's probably like, I don't know, another half an hour or so. But it just feels to me like maybe a good point to stop or not. Either way, it's up to you guys.
I don't care either way.
Anna?
I don't either.
Okay, let's keep continuing then. All right. Okay, most of you are politicians, Biella says, and as such, you have to deal with real issues. Yes? A ragged chorus of yeses from the delegates. Biella.
In dealing with issues, you have to present the facts as they are, both the good and the bad. You can't exaggerate one over the other, otherwise you get into trouble under the accuracy guidelines. Yes?
The delegates nodded a bit glumly. For some, those guidelines were harder to live with than for others. So just a little quick note here. In the story, there's lots of stuff like this that gets thrown in. That for me personally, when I read, I love stuff like this, right? The accuracy guidelines, like right here, and I just always pause and stop. Hey, what the hell does she mean, the accuracy guideline? There's an implication to it, right? She's just kind of throwing it out as an assumed thing. But for me, if I kind of do some extrapolation and thinking it through and figuring it out, I say, well, what could she mean here? In this context, she's talking to the delegates, which for the most part are politicians, right? And she says, in dealing with issues, you have to present the facts as they are, both the good and the bad. You can't exaggerate one over the otherwise you get in trouble under the accuracy guideline. So in the agglomeration, or at least for most of these delegates, where they're from, there are these accuracy guidelines for politicians, which says that you have to present both sides, kind of like when you were a realtor, that, you have to tell when somebody died in the house or whatever. You have to give all the facts. You're legally obliged to do so. That logic is now being in the implication here. What Biella is saying is that for these in the agglomeration, the politicians are also under similar accuracy guidelines. So it's a small little thing that goes in there, but for me, that's kind of huge. I love those little things that jump into a whole other world. And that's the supplemental works will go into this. So somewhere there'll be a supplemental work that goes into the accuracy guidelines, of the agglomeration, and in other words, political things. So what's that?
This is really what's interesting. That legal stuff that I was learning about? That's exactly what you're talking about.
There you go. Exactly. And in the right.
What it does is this new legal information, what it does is it holds politicians and judges accountable for their word.
Right. So one of the things that the New Nobility recommend to the agglomeration when it was founding, and they were very instrumental in the constitution of the agglomeration. Again, you know, as advisors, because they don't want to say this is what you should do or not, but just as an option. One of the things they recommended was to make a law by which it says, by law, the moment any politician does or says anything whatsoever that can be construed as campaigning. In other words, when they put themselves in a race, any person, not a politician, any person, not even mind a politician, any individual does something that can be construed as campaigning when they get in a race, in other words. From that moment, what they are saying, every single thing is under oath. So from the moment you start campaigning, you are now under oath. If you say something that is inaccurate, you make a promise that you don't keep anything, you go to jail. And there are no fines in this. When you break the oath of this particular oath, and as a campaigner, as a politician, as any kind of a public figure, now you go to jail. That's it, straight away. So if you don't keep your promises, you're going to jail. Now, of course, if you tried to and you couldn't because of, you know, whatever mitigating circumstances, all right, the court will kind of give you a pass. But nonetheless, this is a very serious thing, which those accuracy guidelines thus, in other words, which go a little further. Man, this is a huge deal, in other words, changes everything, right?
Yeah, they call that full disclosure.
Right, but the New Nobility recommended full disclosure become a legal obligation for politicians.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. This legal, I was learning, it's basically holding the politicians accountable so that they have to have full disclosure. So it's kind of forcing them to have to do full disclosure.
But that's coming from outside the system. You know, they were just kind of taking that one step further to make it a legal thing. Yeah, it's very exciting, right? Very exciting. Yeah, very exciting. In the context here, this is what the accuracy guidelines mean. Yes, they are guidelines, but really they have legal force to them, because once you become a politician, you're under oath, you know. So
this is, I will say that this is happening right now. In our real world.
Oh yeah, and I do see, you know, people see the current political situation. Many see it as profoundly depressing and negative. Like,
no, it's not.
No, it's going to lead to changes like this, where these accuracy guidelines, where full disclosure become, just as they are a legal obligation for a realtor, they are going to be a legal obligation for politicians. It's profound. It's profound. It's a really big deal. All right. So, yeah, it's very exciting. I love it, Ryan. Exactly what you're saying. We're looking at the greater attunement. And the greater attunement, you know, again, we connect this to our real world. This is the value and power of stories. Oh, wow, this shit is actually happening.
It actually is
coming right near the city of love and Nobilia. It's happening, right, Donna?
Right.
Little by little, it's happening. Little by little.
I gotta take a bathroom break real quick.
Yeah, no
Me
problem.
too.
No problem. No problem. I love it. All right, all right. Well, we'll go ahead, Ryan. Go ahead. So since Donna's already gone, so brilliant. Rachel, let's hear. I know you.
And then there was two.
Say again.
And then there was two.
There you go. And there was two. I love it. I really I love to hear your perspectives. Just know, Rachel, that there's a bit of a delay for when you come out. So, you know, just in terms of your speaking. That's why you kind of go over us sometimes.
Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, because sometimes when you do a lot of talking, it'll stutter anyway.
Well, it's us, because we say something and then we say, "Oh, Rachel," and then there's nothing comes, because it's slower for you. You see, so then we need to be aware that you're on the delay, not you. Actually, it's the other way around.
Yes, fuck.
It's like you talking from a spaceship, you know, and there's that 1 or 2 second delay. So maybe you're out in space for all. Who knows?
Planet Raquel.
Yeah, there you go. You know, we just assume that people on the other side of the internet are humans. How do we know? I had this. I put this up as a post one day. I said, "How do you know I'm not an alien? How do you know I'm not an alien?"
Because your head's a bit too small and your skin's not grey.
But I have sophisticated software, which I've seen software that can make me look like a cartoon figure, right? You know, like an avatar in a game. I mean, you have software now where you can speak as your in-game avatar. So why am I not just applying that to some human form that I've created? I've got a very realistic looking avatar. You have no idea knowing if this is actually what I look like.
It can be like utterly butterly. It's not really butter. Then what is it?
Exactly. Yeah. But it tastes
God.
like butter.
Yeah, but it's not butter.
Right.
So then what is it?
Right, exactly. I love those ads. They're always so funny. That what's that the product called here? There's an actual margarine substitute that says, but it's not actually butter or something like that. You know what that's called, Donna? You remember? Market.
It's not butter.
It's not
It's like
butter.
a
That's
really
right. That's it. That's what it's called. It's not butter. Yeah. It's
Is
not
that
actually
it? It's a
butter.
real obvious name.
Yeah, it's a very obvious name, but it's actually called. It's not actually butter. It's just too funny.
That's where they get the slogan from then, because we have a brand called Utterly Butterly.
Ah,
And
that's
its
what I thought you were saying. That's what I thought.
And its tagline is, "I can't believe it's not butter."
That's what it's called.
Oh,
I
that's
can't
the name
believe
of the
it's not
butter?
butter. That's the name of the product.
Yes.
I
That's
can't believe
it.
it's not butter. That's it. So that's interesting.
Excellent, Rachel.
Butterly is using that name of the, maybe it's the British version of the the American product, same company, because to use that tagline is just fascinating. I can't believe it's not actually butter. Yeah, I can't believe it's not butter. That's right.
I can't believe it's not Sil.
I can't believe. I shall overemphasize my accent.
There you go. There you go. Brilliant. Brilliant. All right.
Governor.
Governor.
The thing you were reading before. The thing you're reading before about assuming and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's one thing my mum's been saying for years.
Right.
To assume makes an ass out of you and me.
There you go. Exactly. But I'm assuming your mom will say arse, not ass.
No, we say ass. To us, an ass is a donkey.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And I think it was hilarious because there's actually these two American couples who had a little boy with them. I think he must have been like, 5 years old. And he fell over it and scraped his bum on the floor. And they were like, "Oh, did you hurt your fanny?" And everyone just pissed themselves laughing.
Right. Now, I'll tell you something really, just a little quick side note here. When we were kids, a fanny was the front part.
Woman's private parts.
Right? Exactly. A fanny was a vagina. So that was always what it's called. That was fanny, it's the girl parts, fanny. Right. But then, like Americans came and said, "Well, I kicked him in his fanny," or "I kicked him in the fanny." It's like, what the fuck? So anyway, there was just we had to readjust for that. Yeah, when we were kids and you heard this expression from Americans, it's like, what the hell are they doing over there in America?
Laughing. Oh my God. I have an American friend that I talk to quite a lot, and we go on about slang words because to hear, apparently America have this slang word about nutting someone when you're like, what, I nut or something, like in my pants or something like that. And I was like, do you know, I have this expression in England where we say, "I'm going to nut you, mate." And it doesn't mean I'm going to blow my load all over you. It means I'm going to headbutt you.
I'm going to what you? It means I'm going to what you?
Headbutt.
Oh, headbutt you. Right.
So if I'm going to nut someone, I'm going to hit them with my head. I'm going to headbutt them. And we're just pissing ourselves laughing at an obvious language barrier that I didn't believe existed.
Yeah, there's some funny words out there.
Yeah, like torch.
All right, Donna, you good? You ready?
I'm good.
All right, let's continue. All right, the delegates nodded a bit glumly. For some, those guidelines were harder to live with than for others. Biella.
Most of these issues you deal with have far more negative than positive to them. Otherwise, they wouldn't be issues that needed dealing with.
Yes, it is hard, the woman said.
Your job is convincing the electorate, no. How do you say that word? Electorate.
Yeah.
Electorate, thank you. To agree with solution. This is as I see it.
Biella said.
You don't necessarily have to come up with the solutions yourself, but you are the ones that have to sell the solution to the voters.
Not the most flattering way to put it, but yes, that's essentially what we do.
And why do people vote for you?
Biella asked, changing tack slightly. Because they believe in us, the woman said without hesitation.
This is correct?
Biella asked the delegates in general. Yes, yes, they agreed.
Believe in you, not believe you? I take it that is a substantial difference.
Oh, yes, a huge difference, she said. They don't believe us easily. Distrust of politicians is almost a genetic trait by now, it seems. Whatever we say is almost automatically treated with skepticism. But if we can get people to believe in us, then they vote for us.
And what makes them believe in you?
Biella asked with a soft attitude. Well, they have to know you mean to fix the problem. You mean to fix the problem. Not just say you will, but that you actually mean to. Nods from the delegates.
What makes the difference? I understand what you mean, but I am interested from the voter's perspective. How do they make the distinction?
Biella leaned forward. She wanted to be sure they knew she sincerely wanted their perspective on this. The woman frowned. That's kind of hard to say. They just come to know you mean to fix things. They see it in you. They see, I guess, that you have a solution. No, that isn't enough now I think of it. They see you truly believe the solution will work and it is a good solution. Nowadays, you can't bullshit the people anymore. They are too informed. They don't always have the time to do all the homework on an issue, but they know enough to know when someone is trying to pass something off on them. If we don't truly believe in the solutions we are proposing, then it's a no-go. And it's not just with specific solutions. You truly have to believe that a better future is possible. Yes? She looked at the other delegates for confirmation, not quite sure she had expressed herself adequately. Yes, you are quite right, one said. That's how it is. We have to truly believe what we say, and we have to truly believe things will get better. The delegates murmured assent.
So you have to have a positive outlook on the future.
Biella said carefully and earnestly. Ha! The woman delegate explained. She was a big woman. She clapped her hands together forcefully with another. Ha! I see it! I see it! She looked critically at Biella, wanting to determine more. She was a politician, an astute one. She knew how to read people. You knew positivity was the necessary ingredient, she said, but you didn't just say so. We weren't open to it, even though now it is obvious. You let us come to it for ourselves via our own experience. Nicely done. Very nicely done, she said appreciatively. And yet, she paused, looking for the correct words. And yet you didn't manipulate us either. You just provided the framework for the truth to become clear. Nicely done indeed.
Yes.
Biella said purely.
The truth is always the simplest in the end. It is hard to deny. Much can get in the way. Usually what gets in the way are perspectives which fail to take the larger perspective into consideration. But once our perspective is shifted to the appropriate view, then things are easily seen and typically are simple and obvious.
Ursula provided her takeaway. So, for me, what I get from this is that when it comes to realism, we also have to be positive or optimistic. Otherwise, we will simply get stuck in the status quo. We would just have balance. We would just have balance, no progress. Not only that, but being optimistic tips the balance when it comes to attitude. If we are more optimistic than pessimistic, then we believe there is hope. And hope is what makes it all okay. Without hope, there is no progress. If we are truly realistic, then we must acknowledge the necessity of hope or positivity or optimism. Ursula broke into a large, cheeky smile, enjoying how the conversation had come full circle, proving and disproving all at the same time. It appealed to her. The interaction faded into a pause, everyone digesting their thoughts. Biella filled the moment with a quote.
A deliberate choice to be unrelentingly positive is the ultimate charity.
From Constant Reminders of the New Nobility. Will you read that again, please?
A deliberate choice to be unrelentingly positive is the ultimate charity.
I would like to become a new noble, Ursula said suddenly. I want to be part of this. I want to get to the bottom of things and make a difference by living these truths. I can think of no higher calling than to live by example. I want to live that optimism. The playfulness which had emerged in her had leveraged that last bit of resistance. Biella leapt up and hugged Ursula with all the generosity of her being, careful to include the delegates and Comelius in her awareness. She was in effect hugging Ursula for all of them, ensuring Ursula's declaration did not set her apart in any way. Biella adjusted her delight at the decision, so that it was as if Ursula had asked to join the new nobility on behalf of all the delegates. Biella was being opportunistic. That was the way of awareness. One made use of what the universe brought. With a bit more associating, Ursula would become their new noble. They would take pride in her, connect with her, follow her progress, and seek to use their connection to learn more. They would now be comfortable with the new nobility, now that one of them had joined. Biella would make sure it was also something Ursula was happy about.
We would be most pleased and eager to have you,
Biella said, making the you a plural you, for further drawing them all in.
As part of the task I have been assigned, I now assign you to be the spokesperson and communicator from and with the delegates. You will be both delegate and new noble aspirant at the same time. Your task is to learn all about the new nobility from the delegates' perspective, from their side.
Biella inserted side deliberately.
And to communicate as much as you can what you learn while the delegates are still here, and indeed to maintain a connection with the delegates into the future. Is that agreeable, Ursula? Agreeable? Not acceptable? It is an important difference. To the new nobility, acceptable is not enough. If you don't truly want this task, if it doesn't resonate with you, if it is very, very important to say so, only when we truly resonate with the task and we truly want to do it, are we good to do the task. You will often see the new nobles in training refusing tasks. Sometimes tasks sit for a long time until someone is found with whom it resonates. It is absolutely critical to the new nobility that this is the most earnestly and honestly adhered to. By now, you know there is no accepting a task to please or impress anyone. Results and value are the order of the day. The best chance of value is through sincere earnestness coupled with a hearty enthusiasm. That sustained enthusiasm comes from a deep resonance. I love how this dovetails with our discussion. Is this good for you, Ursula?
Ursula adopted a dubious expression, surveying the delegates with a critical eye. Well, I don't know so much. She left off there. But you must, Ursula, the big woman said, grabbing Ursula by the shoulders. You must. We need someone like you. You must. She was shaking Ursula slightly now. Well, you're kind of a difficult bunch. I've seen you away from the public, remember? Ursula said slyly. You're going to have to help me, yes? Yes, we will, the big woman said, caught up in the moment. She was genuinely fond of Ursula and was very pleased for her, but did not want to see the opportunity slip away either. You promise to be good and nice and helpful and kind and do whatever I ask. Ursula could not contain herself any longer and burst into a huge, mischievous grin. Yes, whatever you need, dear. Hey, wait a minute. Ursula's words were catching up to her. Oh, you cheeky devil, she laughed, slapping Ursula playfully on the arm. Ha! You had me going for a sec. But yes, of course, we will help you and support you, Ursula. We are very fond of you. You know that, yes? Ursula nodded happily, acknowledging and strengthening the bond by including the entire group with her nods and smiles. Ursula was like a new person. It was now evident what had been on her mind. Oh, that really makes me emotional, this part here. Rachel.
Thank you. Finally. And it all falls into place.
Let's go and celebrate with a nice big meal.
Biella said, This was a fantastic development, and Biella marveled once again at how things worked out.
So amazing, so amazing.
I feel like a child again, Ursula said.
Wonderful, dear.
Comelius said, borrowing the affectionate endearment from the big woman, surprising everyone slightly. He had many sides to him, hooking his arm into the other side of Ursula from where the big woman had done the same. They marched her off to the eating hall. The other delegates scurried to catch up, their enthusiasm taking hold, energizing the entire group.
You'll need to be a child again.
Comelius was heard saying,
It is the only way to acknowledge what we have so sincerely believed to be, to be the be-all and end-all of everything. It's actually somewhat naive. It is the only way to proceed without our old friend ego interfering. Bravo, Ursula, bravo. I wish I had the gumption and fortitude to do what you are doing. Letting go of our entrenched self is an accomplishment.
Yes, yes, Ursula said most earnestly. It's humbling to realize that even though one has had the right of it all our lives, there is actually a more right out there. Let me read. Yes. Yes, Ursula said most earnestly. It is humbling to realize that even though one has had the right of it all our lives, there is actually a more right out there. Next chapter, Ursula the aspirant. So that's a big statement, that last one from Ursula over here, where she says, it's humbling to realize that even though one has had the right of it all of our lives, there is actually a more right out there. It's a big mystery that gets dealt with in the next chapter. It's very cool. So just to wrap it up from the start of the chapter, remember in the chapter 3, where Biella was kind of like a little bit confounded by Ursula. She didn't quite know what's going on. And this is it, this pressure for Ursula, that she wants to join. And Ursula will explain in the next one exactly what was going on. And it's quite magical. I just love this part. It's really magical. So I want to just add something in here just as a fun part. When I was writing this, Comelius is a real person. Now, his name's not Comelius. His name's Mark. But anyway, so when I was reading this, I was sharing this with Mark, and we were in a big, long, year-long conversation at the time. And anyway, so I would share with him as I'm writing, and his comments, right, are him responding in real time to me writing it, and then he would something, and I would write some more, and he would just say this stuff like, it would just come out of him. It was just too incredible, the stuff that he said, just in the moment. And he didn't realize I was writing it into the story. I just kept giving him the next part, not adding in his comments. And he would just say the stuff to me, and it would just be part of the story. It was just so amazing, the stuff that he came up in real time, just expressing himself in the conversation. He got a bit caught up in it also, I think, but it's amazing, what he would say. So all Comelius's comments are all real, actual comments, all of this stuff. It's amazing. I just added in, Comelius was heard saying and the context, but his actual quote comments, I didn't change any of it. It's just incredible, just amazing, really fun. So, Ursula is a created character. There are some others in the story later on are the same way, that are real people who just got enfolded into the story. Just something special that happened with the story. It's just really magical. So, all right. So anything, just comments, takeaways, anything? Donna, Rachel, Ryan? Donna's thinking. What you thinking, Donna?
I was just thinking that it's just kind of amazing how somebody could have a conversation and it just flows into a story naturally. I mean, that in itself is like so huge.
I mean, I enfold it in the context, and provide different context, but it's still how exactly, it's just, it was so incredible to me how I didn't have to change anything, that I could use his comments. And later you see in the Mornus, Comelius has a whole long story arc. It just was too incredible to me how that happened. It's just amazing. It was really astonishing. Yeah, it was just really something special and magical. I love it. I just love it. Yeah, it's really beautiful. And just in the bigger picture here too, if we look at this entire comment, this is a very complicated and a layered, not complicated, very layered. Lots going on in this chapter, and Biella is trying to share the fullness of the new nobility, that sophistication, that layeredness. Now she's aware that it's kind of a bit much, but she has to do that because this is what they are. Her mandate is to show what the new nobility are, not necessarily to make it comfortable or convenient, not to dumb it down. Her mandate is to show what the new nobility are in their fullness. So she has to show this. So when we read, we kind of have to realize, okay, there's a lot going on here. It's kind of a little bit too much to process, but hey, we're looking at the bigger picture. And what came out of all of this, is this magical development of Ursula, the connectivity with the big woman. The big woman is a fun character. And she calls herself the big woman later on, by the way, or refers to herself as a big woman, and she owns it. That's part of her identity. She actually comes in book 3, kind of. Anyway, but she's kind of a cool character. I like the big woman a lot. She's very cool. Enthusiasm and direct honesty and all of that. You get a bit of a, but Ursula's wanting to become an aspirant binds all of the delegates and the group. Some of Biella's friends, the group from earlier, the aspirants, they all kind of combine to make a bigger group, and it's very cool. It's very exciting. And then also we see, Comelius's, and by the way, Comelius in real life, he taught philosophy, so he's very much that. The character Comelius is a lot of overlap. That's how he talks, it's quite fun. In terms when sometimes he gets very technical on stuff. He was kind of like keeping it simple a little bit somewhere, but it's very cool. Very cool. Yeah. Very exciting. Very exciting. So anyway, Ryan, anything? Just fun.
It's a lot. I'm kind of like Comelius where, I'm just trying to process it.
Yeah, it is a lot. It is a lot.
And for me, when I'm trying to focus on the reading of it, I can't focus on the comprehension of it.
Yes, I know.
So I have a hard time doing that. So I guess, I don't really know right now.
No, that's the whole point. It is a lot, and even for me, rereading it is a lot, and it's meant to be. It's kind of, that's the idea, is to say, whoa, there's a muchness here. It's too much. And so this is a bit of a convoluted and a complicated chapter, very much so. And that's the idea behind it. It is so. And that's all cool. There's more coming a little later on. They kind of unravel a little bit more. But it's exactly that. And it's very nice. It's very much specifically that. This picture is more Ursula than the big woman, even though it's kind of next to the big woman. It could be the big woman. They're kind of very similar in a lot of ways. But the big woman definitely has that, that kind of that directness where she just kind of says her emotions and just shares everything, whereas Ursula a bit more circumspect and, there's a little bit more, but you see later on Ursula changes, Ursula's story. Ursula's got a great story, a very, very fun story. So very exciting. But and don't over-identify with the characters too much, Ryan. Yes, you have some of Comelius in you, as we all do, but there's lots that you don't have either. So just be cautious is what I'm saying. You'll see how the story goes later is why I'm saying that.
All I'm saying is when you actually do the reading, you're trying to get into the character. So you try to associate yourself with.
No, I agree. And it is difficult to do. This is a nice picture. I like this picture very much, just that consideration, this could be one of the delegates or one of the other aspirants. Actually, I think more of this may be potential, but again, it could be Biella too. I try not to have a specific look for Biella, it's all sorts of different ones. And this is an actual bust of Socrates, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Remember he mentioned Socrates at his trial, and he actually makes a very powerful point here. I'm not going to read the way it's been distorted, but he says, to truly act in one's own self-interest is to actually act in the interest of the whole. And that's it's largely forgotten in society. People have reversed it, but that's the thing. To truly act in one's own self-interest is to actually act in the interest of the whole. That's a huge point, very big point. Very big point for me personally also. I remember getting in a big argument with my brother about this, about the meaning of the word selfishness. And I said to him, the dictionary is wrong. And he was just most outraged that I could even have the temerity and the effrontery to just is even suggest that the dictionary might be wrong. Well, it is. Yeah.
Oh.
I like this pic also. Yeah, I was just going through the pictures real quick. Yeah, I mean, this could be, you know, it could be a male figure, Comelius. He's a bit older. This may be a bit young for Comelius, but still, you know, there's, I guess, a male figure. But so it could be any of them. So I don't know. This was kind of a cool picture. You know, I like that the pictures give an abstract, and through seeing the different pictures, we over time we get to put together a conception of Biella rather than a specific image. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that picture of Ursula down there, that could be Biella too. This one, where was it now? This one. Could just as well be Biella, right? Could be Aki, could be Nora, could be the big woman, could be any of them. Could be even maybe not so much a delegate, maybe. But this is one of my favorite pictures. It's I do like the wholeness of it, but you know, it's maybe a little bit too stylized. I do like the picture too. It's a fun picture. I just remember the star. Oh, this is a picture of Comelius's earnestness, and yes, he's an older character in the story and in real life also, but. But it shows his essential youth, which he has. He's kind of like the young man, you know. He has that perpetual youthfulness to him. So, as you see it coming out in the end there, you know, where he celebrates this, and you know, this I love with Comelius, that the very last part where he says, you know, where Ursula. I'm just scrolling down here. I'll be there in a second. Not to scroll. This is a very, very powerful point, and it's a huge thing to me, right? Where Ursula says, I feel like a child again. And he says, wonderful, dear, you know, borrowing from the big woman. But then he says, you will need to be a child again. It is the only way to acknowledge what we have so sincerely believed to be the be-all and end-all of everything. Is that what we have so sincerely believed is actually somewhat naive. So he's saying what we believe to sincerely be the be-all and end-all, which is essentially growing up and being an adult, is actually somewhat naive. It is the only way to perceive without our own friend ego intervening. Bravo, Ursula, bravo. I wish I had the gumption and fortitude to do what you are doing. Letting go of your entrenched self is an accomplishment. These are prophetic words from Comelius here. And from a personal point of view, oh my God, when he said that, it just kind of broke my heart at the time, because it was a very self-aware thing that he said, you know, I wish I had the gumption and fortitude to do what you are doing. A huge point. It's a very, very big point. We'll see how it unfolds. Just to tease you a little bit, this is a very big statement, all of this here from Comelius, just massive. I mean, he just like really goes to the end of it. And you know who else are here doing that? Rachel and Donna and Ryan and Bina and everyone else. You guys are doing the same stuff. I hear this kind of comments from you guys all the time, where you say this stuff which kind of just jumps so much and you connect to a bigger greatness of things. It's just absolutely fantastic to me. Just really, really magical. Yeah. More and more we connect to that moreness of ourselves. Very magical. Rachel, you have any takeaways before we go? Just overview perspective, just of the entire story, the reading, the everything.
I'm thinking.
Brilliant. Yeah, it's a lot to think about. There's a lot to think about. That's the thing with the story. It's not a story. Yes, I like reading it, and we stop and digress every now and then. But when I personally read it, I never read it just in one go. I stop, I think, and yes, I'll come back the next day, you know, a week later. I know that's for, even though I'm the one, you know, writing it, still, when I read it, it's that I have to really go into it and think about it. Yeah, it's a very layered story. There's a lot in it.
I am used to that though, because I read a lot of like books on philosophy and books on like magical rituals and rites and stuff, and you have to take it in piece at a time.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you end up flooding yourself with too much information, and then it all just like converges and comes into like this gobbledygook that you can't process.
Exactly.
But it's just part of my process, really. I have to go into like this deep thought about it, about everything that I read, everything that I listen to.
That's how I read everything. Actually, it's how I watch TV. It's how everything for me is like that. You know, just it's kind of the new nobility way to just think about things in that deep. So, yeah.
It's like the opposite for me, which is interesting because I'm used to reading like children's books.
Right.
Because I have little kids, so their books are like 2 sentences.
Yeah. Hey, Ryan, that reminds me. Did you ever get a chance to read the Hedgie story to them?
I don't even know if I got it. I know you sent it to me, but
I'll send it again. I'm just keen for some feedback. You know, Hedgie and the Hedgie, the undercover hedgehog. So
if you send it to me tonight, I'll read it to him.
okay. I'll send it. All right. Yeah, I'm just curious. You know.
I was just saying that because like reading this story is difficult for me.
Yeah, if you're in the children's story mode, it's very. I love how you read, Ryan. Your reading, I love it, man. I love it. It's really magic. I love it. You know what else? What else I really? I was gonna say what else I really enjoy is how when we read that sometimes the words they get change place and change order, and you just kind of say it in a different way, and I love that. It's all good. It works out magically. I just love it. Say again.
Sometimes your brain just.
Yeah, but it comes out all good. I just love that, and that's part of what we're doing too. This exercise. Yes, we're reading the story. There's discernment. There's awareness. There's understanding. There's looking at deeper. There's all of the other stuff. But also, it's just an opportunity to practice expression and to practice, reading on the fly, to practice adapting on the fly, to be flexible and be fluid. And also, hey, we screw it up sometimes. So bloody what? And that's a big part of doing this. It doesn't really matter. It's no big deal, right?
You call it an exercise. It literally feels like exercise because I'm tired after I do it.
Yes. Yeah. It is. It does take energy. It does.
Yeah. Almost more because I do very physical work.
Yeah.
Job, and it takes more work to do this mental. More energy, I'll say.
Right, and that's an interesting point you mentioned there, Ryan, because Bina and I are that Making Peace with Money little sub course that we're doing, or separate program, and in that, especially people, and a lot of our way of impeccability, like Sher and a couple of other people that are getting into life coaching and all that. So, and in our workshops, we deal with a lot of life coaches come to us. So we essentially coach life coaches, and many of them struggle with pricing what they do and charging for what they do, and realize that the kind of energy and attention that you give, it is something that takes a lot of energy.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It takes a lot, and they don't realize you may be just doing an hour or two or whatever, but that's the equivalent of like sometimes a whole day's work, physically, because it's so intense what you're doing, and they don't appreciate this. So yeah, it's a big deal. There's different kinds of energy, and what you just said is a huge thing, Ryan. It's a very
the amount of energy I have to exert to do the physical work all day.
Right.
It's not as much like this little bit that we just did. I exerted more energy than
I know.
Doing physical stuff.
I hear you.
Because actually, yeah, all day doing physical stuff, I still have energy left over.
Right. Isn't that incredible?
It's interesting, and you only know it if you've done both.
Right, exactly. Now, here's the other thing why I enjoy this. It's also exercise, not just an exercise. It's both. So in the same way as when we do physical work, we get fit. We can get in this kind of energetic fitness. So as we do more of these, it won't be quite as much. It will be easier and easier. So that's another part. Always there's more. Always there's those extra layers. I just love it. It's very simple.
Yeah.
Right. How about you, Donna? How about you? How are you feeling in terms of the energy?
It's all good.
I just love it. Donna's glowing. I love it. I can't see you, Rachel, but I'm assuming you're enjoying and glowing and happy and everything's good too, yes? You're on mute, sorry. I was getting feedback.
Meh. I've got the flu, haven't I?
That's right. All right. Well, at least let's hope you're a little less fluey than you were before.
Well, yeah, just before I couldn't get out of bed, and now I'm
okay. There you go. See, you gave a little bit of it to Donna. So, hey, take it back. Brilliant.
No, she can keep it. It's horrible.
All right. On that note, we're going to go get some rest and chill and recharge some energy batteries, and maybe we'll later or not. But say again.
I have plenty of energy.
Good. All right. Well, maybe I'll chat to you a little later then, Rachel. I wanted to read that story with you, that Impeccable Warrior story. So maybe we'll do that a little later as a live.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. Brilliant. All right. See you later then. All right. Maybe we'll chat to you other guys later. Bye-bye, Ryan. Thanks, man. Thanks. Bye-bye. All right, Rachel. Talk to you later then. Yeah?
Yeah. See you later.
I got to end the live. Oh, stop live stream. There we go. Okay. End meeting. End meeting for all.